Hi everybody, it's me Jill and welcome to Jill Informed. This is the recap of The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 15, Episodes 15 and 16, The Reunion, Parts 1 and 2. So, thankfully, the season wasn't any longer than it was because I don't think any of us could have taken that. And also, thankfully, this reunion is over and done in 2 episodes. I think that was the perfect amount. And like I said, I pretty much checked out on the ladies of Orange County, but I did think that the reunions were exciting enough to recap. And I asked you guys, a few of you said, yeah, go ahead and do it. So here I am. I am doing both parts in one little recap here, so let me briefly go over part 1. As usual, Andy says hello to all the ladies, and we learn that Kelly Dodd is now Kelly Leventhal. She's taken Rick's name, and well, that's good. She's happy. Pretty much out the gate, we start with kind of attacking Bronwyn. Not that she doesn't deserve it. We talk about Gina's small house. Shannon still says she did not say it was sad or pathetic or depressing or whatever the verbiage was that Bronwyn said. And Bronwyn maintains that her memory is that, yes, Shannon did say that. So Emily's like, yeah, when you said that, Bronwyn, to her, like, that was not right. That bothered me a lot because, I didn't come from money, and Elizabeth is saying the same thing. Yeah, it bothered her too. It appears as though the general theme is that Bronwyn admits to things that she's done wrong, but almost like it's okay because she's owning up to it. So it's just like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, I was angry. I said it. Yeah. Okay, so then it's supposed to be okay? Admitting that you did something wrong, well, that's the first step. Then the second step is to apologize for it. And then the third step, which we never get with these housewives, is to learn from that and not do it again. Bronwyn is stuck on step 1. She just admits to stuff. So she's like, yeah, I did. I was lashing out. And Gina, and I'm glad she said this, she goes, it's hard for me to imagine that you're all about empowering women when you do stuff like that, Bronwyn. And she's like, yeah, I get it. Andy asked if they could go forward or how they're going to go forward. And Bronwyn said, well, Gina called me and she said, you're an asshole, but I will always be there for you. I think Gina kind of muttered under her breath that it was a one-sided relationship. So I don't get the feeling that any of these ladies are going to have too much to do with Bronwyn until Bronwyn does a lot of atoning. My guess is that because Sean is so incredibly understanding about allowing her and enabling her to do whatever she wants and to just kind of like, have it all, that she maybe expects that from other people in her life. These ladies aren't going to give her that. She's going to have to do some apologizing. We move on to Shannon. She and John have been together for a year and a half. She defends him with the drinking stuff. And she's like, John Jansen is a very private person. And Andy's like, yeah, we asked him to come to the show, but he declined. And she said, yes, he's very private. He's a businessman. So for anyone to imply that there's alcoholism is just wrong. But of course, she, in defending him, tells us that not only is that rumor about him being drunk at some golf outing and his dad had to drive him home, not only is it wrong because he doesn't enjoy golf, but he hasn't spoken to his father in 30 years. Okay. So I'm sure this very private guy loves that little chestnut came out. She's just... Oh, God. Plus, she calls him John Jansen, just to make it easy for people to Google him. A viewer asked Bronwyn if she thinks that Shannon's an alcoholic, and she's like, yeah. Shannon, of course, said, no, I'm fun. I'm fun. I'm just fun. Yeah. I mean, can we just agree that all the ladies drink more than they should? I mean, at this point, it's just part of the show. It's expected. During the break, we see them in their dressing rooms, and Shannon got John on the phone now, John Jansen, who hasn't spoken to his father in 30 years. Possible alcoholic. Anyway, she's complaining about Bronwyn, and she's like, they're talking about our relationship now, and of course, and drinking, and it's just, she's terrible. He's trying to say, well, now that she's sober, she thinks that everybody else is an alcoholic, whatever he was saying. Shannon then says, I'm so upset that if it's the right opportunity, I just might bring up the Stella stuff. Okay, so that's the first little glimmer that there's something going on. Now, we all kind of know what that is already because we've seen it on social media. They've teased it on other occasions, but we don't get to it yet. Next, we have a whole segment on COVID. Yay! Because we don't have enough of that in our lives. I will say this, during this entire segment, Kelly Dodd cannot stop coughing. I'm sorry, Kelly Leventhal cannot stop coughing. And she's coughing right into her hand, which, as we know, maybe not the best. And every time she coughs, the camera keeps panning to different women like, okay. Anyway, Kelly's like, I don't like wearing a mask. And who knows if they even work? Like, do your pants protect you from a fart? Okay. I'm so sick of this argument. Let's put it this way. If droplets are coming out of your ass, Kelly, then I would prefer you wearing pants than not. Kelly is getting super defensive about when she's asked about her beliefs, and she's angry with Andy. Andy keeps pressing, asking a lot of questions. I think what he said was that it wasn't even you on the show, Kelly. It was mostly all these questions coming in and people wanting to have the show canceled and all that. That was based on the things you were saying on social media, not anything you did on the show. So yeah, he keeps asking her about certain things that she's said, and she's getting hot and frustrated. She's finally like, Andy, oh my God, what do you want from me? Elizabeth in her lying is next. She said that Jimmy is a very private person. He's an introvert, and it was very hard on him, all the talk about their sex life. She said, all that talk, he didn't expect all that talk. And she's like, his mom watches the show, and she's very conservative, and it was just very uncomfortable for him. Then Bronwyn, Bronwyn, the girl's girl, the one who supports other women, says that one of her friends spent the summer with her ex and his new fiance. And Elizabeth said, he's engaged? And she goes, mm-hmm. And she goes, well, he might have a new girlfriend, but I don't think he's engaged. I would know. Bronwyn says, yes, they've been together for 5 years. It does backfire on Bronwyn because all the other women kind of attack her, accuse her of digging dirt again on Elizabeth. And she's like, I talked directly to him, but he was with my friend. It was my friends. Elizabeth is visibly upset to be learning this on camera, right? And she said, well, I feel sorry for his girlfriend. Bronwyn interrupts, fiance. Gina goes, Bronwyn, why would you do that? Did you have to correct her? And Bronwyn goes, it's been 5 years. Gina's like, it's just wrong. She's struggling, Bronwyn. Honestly, what is the matter with Bronwyn? And I'm so glad she got called out on that. Because to me, that's one of those things that I think the women get away with all the time. Making these snide little comments. And I just feel happy that Gina was like, okay, that was uncalled for. You had to correct her from saying girlfriend and make sure she knew it was fiance. What are you going to say next week? That you were hurting and you were just lashing out? Bronwyn. I went from liking you to defending you to feeling empathy for you to just barely being able to tolerate you. And I'm a pretty understanding person. So good job. Although I will say she learned from the best, Dr. Deb was a doozy of a mother. And I think that Bronwyn can't get out of her own way from being just exactly like her mom. I think the best we can hope for is that she watches this season back and she sees how ugly her behavior has been and wants to do something about it. Kelly says, let's be honest, your alcoholism was just for a storyline. And she lost it. Bronwyn's like, F you, Kelly. They're screaming at each other. Bronwyn's like, that is vile, even for you, Kelly. Kelly doesn't care. She calls her a liar. Andy asks all the women if anyone other than Emily thought that Bronwyn was an alcoholic. Gina's like, I had no friggin' clue. And then Shannon says, John and I were friends with Bronwyn and Sean, and we hung out a lot together over the summer. Not this past summer, but the summer before. We were together a lot. And I didn't know if I was going to bring this up or not. But as a mother, when my daughter Stella was 14 years old, side note, of course it was Stella, of all her daughters. You knew this was going to be Stella, right? When we were at a barbecue, you went up to Stella and said, there's a lot of drugs out there. Stella, if you want the good stuff, text me. Kelly goes, what? And that's where part 1 ended. So, of course, part 2 starts exactly right there at that moment. Bronwyn goes, I'm sorry, I don't remember that. Oh, God. At first I'm thinking, are you really going to pull the, I was drunk, I don't remember, I don't think I said that. I was waiting for all that. She didn't quite go there, but she did say she didn't remember saying that, which I believe. And she was drunk, and I believe that too. What I didn't expect is that next she broke down. She did. Like, genuine crying, I think. And I think it took all the other women aback. I think it made Shannon immediately, back off. She just looked directly at Shannon and she said, I'm so sorry. I am so, so sorry. And Shannon paused for a second and she said, well, thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a moment. I will say this, Kelly wasn't buying it by the look on her face. But, I thought it was genuine. So we move on to Gina and her hairstyles, and, it's a more lighthearted moment where she's picking out the worst and the best. And Andy said, I have to say, I'm so happy for you and Shannon, that you guys found really good guys. And then Kelly goes, me too. I found a good guy. And he goes, well, yeah, you too. And everyone's like, yeah, we love Rick. He's great. But the difference is, I don't think people hated Michael. Anyway, so they go for a potty break now, and Bronwyn breaks down again. And she said, Shannon, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. And I am genuinely so sorry. And Shannon's like, you could tell Shannon wanted to be mad. This isn't exactly the reaction Shannon wanted, because I think Shannon thought, oh, this is I'm going to bring it up and she's going to say something to piss me off. She'll deny it or whatever. And then I'm going to be furious with her. And Shannon maybe even had some receipts with her. I don't know. But I don't think this is what Shannon expected. But she just said, it's okay. It's okay. It was a long time ago. That's the other thing, you guys. I think I heard that it was 2 years ago or something. Well, she said Stella was 14. I think that's true. I think they're 16 now, the twins. If it was 2 years ago, what are you bringing it up now for? I guess because she and Bronwyn weren't adversarial before. I don't know. Okay, when they come back from the break, it's Kelly's turn. They talk about how Shannon and Kelly are getting along great now. I guess John and Rick are best friends. It turns out that John and Kelly know all the same people. We talk about Kelly's wedding, that she got married on 10/10/2020. And it was small. I think she said 20 people. Is that right? But she said, I'm glad it was small because nobody got sick. there's some weird thing about she told the ladies that she couldn't invite them because it was so small, but then some people dropped out at the last minute and she called Emily and invited her and Gina, but they couldn't make it because it was so last minute. That's a little weird. Do you think that Shannon and Elizabeth went? Maybe they did. Maybe they made the guest list and the other three didn't. There's no way she was going to ask Bronwyn, but I don't know. That's interesting. Then we get to talk a little bit more about Kelly and her social media. Her Drunk Wives Matter hat that she was wearing in one of the pictures on Instagram. And she's like, that hat was 2 years old. It was her bachelorette party, I guess. And somebody gave it to her. And she's like, I was just trying everything on. Okay, but then you pair that with all the other stuff you said in your comments. And this is God's way of thinning the herd. And on and on. Kelly was saying, I just put it on because I was trying everything on and I got attacked for it. All the haters were attacking me. And Bronwyn said, it wasn't just the haters. I mean, can you understand how that could be offensive to people? And she's like, well, yeah, I get it now. But do you? Because I feel like you don't. And I feel like you're just angry about it. And all you really want to do is defend yourself. Anyway, there's a whole huge ugly back and forth between Bronwyn and Kelly. Kelly accuses her of just going to a Black Lives Matter march for like a photo op and that you never cared about Black rights before. And can't remember. I don't think she denied that. I think she said, I never said I did it. Kelly's like, well, really, all the ladies are trying to say that they do things privately to support BLM and also gay rights, and I don't know what they do privately, but Kelly seems to think that she has done a lot in the human rights arena. Actually, what she says is, how am I a racist? And Bronwyn's like, well, you were wearing a Drunk Wives Matter hat. Then Kelly screams at her, I'm black! To which everyone was like, what? She's also Mexican and Asian, by the way, so just in case in the future she says something bad. Oh, she's covering all her bases there. Anyway, Andy asks Emily about a tweet that she posted about Bronwyn accusing her of playing the victim or something, and asks her to explain it. And she said, well, it's just what I said. Bronwyn uses the victim mentality to make excuses for everything that she does. And she has said nasty things about all of us. And then Kelly said, yeah, and on TV, saying horrific things about us. So then we see it was like on Entertainment Tonight or something. I can't remember. But we see a little clip, and she was asked if she could turn to any of the other ladies for support with regard to, I guess, being a lesbian or maybe even something with BLM. I don't know exactly. Yeah, they were not too thrilled that she was calling them all racist and homophobes. And now Emily's getting up. I went to a drag show with you and your son. Well, okay. They're all angry that she's acting like she couldn't come to any of them because they're a bunch of racists, which, I don't know that they're not. But I also think Bronwyn has some prejudices in her heart as well. So I don't know. In any case, there's like a screaming match that ensues, and Elizabeth kind of casually tosses out that she's bi, but she doesn't make a big deal about it. Everyone's like, what? She's like, yeah, I am, but I'm not practicing. Next, we talk about Elizabeth's upbringing in a cult, and he asks her how she got involved in it or whatever. And she said, well, it was my grandmother's cult. She's the founder, and her father was a pastor in the cult. There was like schooling, but she said the books were all like just obey, obey, obey. She said it was a joke. And she was terrified of saying anything for years because she thought she would be punished. And she hates that she brought it up, and she starts crying, and she's like, why did he have to be on television? Somebody asked her, did you not want to say it? And she's like, well, I had to. I felt like I had to because you were all calling me a liar and saying you don't believe me. And so I had to tell you something about me, or as a way of explaining to you. And I didn't really want to do it, but I think it's just sort of leftover PTSD, really. I'm surprised she doesn't find it cathartic. I think she will eventually with some more therapy, but initially, I think it was just she has kept this secret for so long, and all she has ever been told as a child is if you tell somebody, you will be punished. There will be repercussions for that. And I think she was terrified for so long, for so many years, that the fact that she opened up about it and in such an incredibly public way, I think she's still sort of terrified by it. She also said that by not talking about it, she could pretend that she had this perfect life with all her things and her expensive home and her cars and all her things, that she could fit in and that the others would like her. She was afraid that she wouldn't be accepted by these women. Emily said, "You think we wouldn't like you?" And she said, "Yeah." And she said, "You being honest about all that stuff, that makes me love you. It was when you were lying and I didn't feel like you were being genuine that I didn't like you." And the others agreed. So I hope she feels better about that, So anyway, in the next segment, we come back from a commercial and Andy's like, "Okay, we're going to bring out Sean next." Shannon goes, "Sean? Who's Sean?" Andy goes, "Bronwyn's husband." And she's like, oh, okay. I was like, "Who's Sean?" I mean, maybe she was confused because Sean was the only husband on. And it's interesting because Andy said earlier John was invited, but he chose not to come. So it does kind of make me wonder, was Jimmy, Travis, and Shane invited? Because nobody came except Sean? I don't know. Maybe they weren't invited because there was nothing really exciting going on with them. I mean, Sean, yeah. Sean's got a story to tell. So anyway, he comes and sits down next to Bronwyn. Oh, but not before we see a nice package of Bronwyn and all the clips of her being an absolute monster. Anyway, she admits that she has never been physically attracted to Sean. Nice. She tells this story, it's a little hard to follow, but she tells the story of her friend Shari wanting her to leave Sean and be with her. And Gina goes, "Oh, Shari is a lesbian?" And she goes, "No." And then everyone's like, "What?" And she said, "But, we had a special connection." Kelly just looks like, "You're an idiot." But it was very confusing. She talked about they had an emotional relationship, but okay, but why would she want you to leave your husband for her? It's just not adding up. It's just weird and it's not adding up. Anyway, she said she wasn't ready to leave Sean at the time, so Shari left her house. Remember, Shari was living with them for a while. Then she and Sean had a big conversation. They talked it out. They decided to try and have an open marriage but stay together because they're each other's best friends and, the 7 children and all. So then when she got home from a trip, her nanny came into the room and started crying and told her that while she was gone, Sean had brought a woman home and she was in their home and in her bed and met her baby. So Bronwyn did not react well to that, she said. That's her words. So she went off the deep end. Hopefully she didn't hit him, but who knows? So after that, they went to therapy to try and figure out what they really want out of their marriage. And Elizabeth goes, "I have a great divorce lawyer if you want one." And Bronwyn goes, I don't want to get a divorce. And Elizabeth goes, "Yeah, but he might." Andy asked Sean, "Do you want to be in a relationship with a woman who does find you attractive?" And he said, "Of course I do." And the ladies are like, "No woman is going to want a married man with 7 children." And he's like, I know. And he kind of made a joke about his Tinder profile being married, 7 children. I'm not going to be high on anybody's list. You're not going to be high on anybody's list, You're a great guy. You're wealthy. You're attractive. I mean, they may have to get past the statement necklaces, but other than that, you're a pretty good catch. Meanwhile, Bronwyn is in a relationship with a 28-year-old woman. Everyone, including Andy, kind of expressed to her that it appears as though she gets everything she wants, gets all her needs met, and Sean takes care of her. Gina is hung up on, understandably, the part where she said she hit him a couple of times. She's like, you physically abused him. And then it's pointed out that, if he were a man, Gina goes, you'd be facing a felony charge. And she would know. Anyway, the only explanation really that Sean gives, and I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I kind of understand it. But on the whole, I'm like everybody else. Sean, what are you doing? Get out. But the way he explains it, they've been together for 25 years, married for 20. They have 7 children. And he said he would like to show his kids that it's possible to still have a loving, positive relationship, even though it doesn't look traditional. And right now, he said this is just the first step. He doesn't know what will happen next. But to him, it's better because she's happy and they don't argue as much. And he said he loves spending time with their kids. I don't know. To me, I think what I took from it is that Sean is invested, if not in their marriage, in the family unit and keeping things like sort of copacetic for the kids, and because they get along so well, because they both say they are each other's best friend. So if he's happy enough in that regard, and then they can get their physical needs met outside of that I guess for now anyway, he's okay with that. It's funny. I feel like if I were Sean, I would be so angry that she took so many years of my life that I could have been with a woman that loved me and wanted me completely. But I think he takes some responsibility for maybe not seeing the signs. Bronwyn claims she knew her whole life that she was a lesbian. This isn't like some new revelation to her. She knew she wasn't attracted to men from an early age, she said. So maybe he does bear some responsibility. Maybe he has been kind of turning a blind eye to the fact that every time they do have sex, she's drunk out of her mind and stuff like that. Who knows? I'm done analyzing that relationship. If it works for them, it works for them. They can do whatever they want. So now it's the final segment. The ladies are brought out these mocktails, and Andy wants them to go around the room and tell everyone what is one thing that they learned this past year. Oh my God, Kelly's is so incredibly passive-aggressive. Kelly learned that if I were in fear of COVID, I wouldn't have gotten married and sold 2 houses and moved into a new place. So I'm just really happy that I didn't live in fear of COVID. That's great. Andy goes, okay, Shannon. I'm glad nobody said anything about that. So Shannon is next, and she says, I learned that it's the little things in life that are the most important. Okay, thanks. That was useless. Emily's is almost as useless. She says she learned that family is the most important thing and your health. Okay, well, we get it. Your husband almost died of COVID. That one, at least I understand more. I mean, I guess I'm being too hard because both of them had COVID touch their lives in a big way. Well, mostly Emily. I don't think Shannon ever got really sick, did she? And she's the one that has that like scarring on her lungs, right? Scar tissue on both of her lungs. I can't remember what she called it. In spite of all that, I didn't hear that she was like in the hospital or anything. So I think she really kind of lucked out. Anyway, Bronwyn learned that she's got a lot of work ahead of her. Wait till she plays back this season. Elizabeth just says, I agree with Shannon and Emily. A lot of the material things in her life that she thought were so important and meant so much to her just don't. They just don't. Gina has learned that she needs to let go more and to know what she can't control, what she can control and what she can't control, she needs to let go of, and that she needs to trust herself. So then they all stand up and Andy asks Emily to lead them in a toast. It was something like, I think everyone here has something beautiful about them and women empowerment, blah, blah, blah. Let's support each other, blah, blah, blah. And that was it. It was no Amanda Gorman, okay? Just saying. And that's a wrap on season 15 of The Real Housewives of Orange County. Guys, I don't know. I guess it's early to say, but I don't know if I'm going back to OC. We'll have to see. But I am totally looking forward to The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Oh my gosh, they're starting to show taglines and little clips, and it's already so good. That is February 17th it airs. That's a Wednesday. And as always, my recap will be 1 week after that. So I hope you join me for that. And before I go, I just wanted to quickly say that last week when I talked about why I was gone for so long and that I was dealing with anxiety and depression that was keeping me from doing much of anything, but for sure from filming. What I failed to mention was that so very many of you reached out to me privately. And with all the comments from last week's video, I am overwhelmed by your support. And I can't not mention that. It just means so, so much to me. Again, I know it's not a unique thing, but it's not an easy thing. And for some people, like me, it's just not easy to open up about. So I did it with a little bit of trepidation and fear. And I just felt like you guys came back at me with a lot of love and support. And thank you. Just, I don't know what else to say. I'm a little overwhelmed by it, but thank you so much. Anyway, please be safe out there. Wear a mask, wash your hands. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.